It begins in silence, not the kind of silence you know, not the pause between wind and wave, not the hush of snowfall. This silence belongs to a world still half asleep, a world that hasn't yet learned the language of separation. You drift above it now, a single endless landmass, stretching from horizon to horizon. Mountains roll like the slow breath of a sleeping creature. Rivers curl through lush valleys that never meet the sea. There is no Atlantic, no Pacific, only one colossal body, Pangaea, resting on the back of a restless planet. From here, you can almost hear the heartbeat beneath the stone. It's deep, slow, seismic, the sound of heat moving through darkness. Beneath your feet, the mantle flows like molten honey, thick and ancient, carrying the restless dreams of the earth itself. For hundreds of millions of years, that heat has tried to escape, pressing upward against the crust like an exhale trapped beneath the skin. But for now, the surface sleeps. The continents, or what will one day become continents, are bound together in an immense embrace. If you stood anywhere on this primeval plain, you'd see no sign of division. The land would seem eternal. The air is thicker, richer in carbon dioxide. Fern forests rise in spirals of green. Giant dragonflies hum above swamps, fed by rivers that have never known tides. Far inland, deserts blaze beneath an orange sky, dusted with the minerals of a still forming world. This is Earth during the late Permian period, around 250 million years ago, an age before mammals, before flowering plants, before the continents learned to move apart. And yet, deep below, something is changing. The earth has always been restless. Its crust is not a solid shell, but a mosaic of plates, vast slabs of rock that float on a mantle of slow shifting fire. They move so gradually that no creature alive then could have noticed. A few centimeters a year, the pace at which fingernails grow. But over eons, such small movements can rewrite the face of the planet. At this moment in deep time, those plates press against one another, their edges groaning under unimaginable tension. The heat rising from the core builds and builds, like breath drawn too long. Pressure curls upward. Beneath Pangaea, cracks begin to whisper. You wouldn't hear them. Not yet. Not even if you placed your ear to the ground. But the planet feels them. It always does. These fractures will not reveal themselves for millions of years, but they are the first notes of a symphony that will one day tear a supercontinent apart. For now, the land is whole. The seas are fewer but vast, a single ocean. Panthalassa wraps around Pangaea like a great dark mirror. Its waves carry ammonites and ancient sharks, creatures whose skeletons are etched into stone now, buried beneath our feet. Along the shores, early reptiles crawl out from the water, blinking at a sun that burns slower and redder than ours. Life is abundant but fragile, and soon it will face one of the greatest tests in Earth's history, the Permian extinction, the moment when nearly all life perished. Volcanoes will shatter this stillness, oceans will acidify, air itself will turn toxic. But not yet. For now, you stand in the calm before the storm. A world of green forests and red deserts connected from pole to pole under a sky that hums with a quiet heat. You can feel the ancient pulse of unity here before the earth learns the art of distance. The wind moves differently when there are no continents to break it. It can circle the world in a single breath, unbroken by mountains and seas. Even storms feel slower, heavier, as though the sky itself carries the weight of a single heartbeat. And in this silence, you begin to understand. The earth was never meant to stay still. Every stone, every mountain, every grain of sand is a part of a long migration. Even the land beneath you is a traveler. You may look at a globe today and see the continents as separate, isolated pieces scattered across blue. But they were once one. They fit together like pieces of a forgotten memory. If you drag the edges of South America and Africa together, their coastlines kiss. Two old friends remembering the shape of their embrace. But for now, those memories are still in the future. The world is one body, and every fracture is still a dream. The continents haven't yet danced apart, but deep beneath you, the music is beginning. You breathe, and so does the planet, slowly, endlessly, between the moments before it begins to break. Chapter 2: The First Tremors. You feel it before you see it, a soft vibration beneath the soles of your feet. Not violent, not sudden, but ancient, like the earth sighing in its sleep. Far below you, in the mantle's dark currents, heat is gathering. It has been rising for millions of years, curling upward in vast plumes of molten rock. Imagine the interior of the Earth as an ocean of slow fire, convection currents swirling as heat escapes from the planet's heart. These currents move the crust above them, gently at first, then with force, enough to tear continents apart. This is where the first tremors begin. You stand on the surface of Pangaea, but the real drama is happening unseen. 2,900 kilometers beneath you, near the core mantle boundary. Here, temperatures climb above 4,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt nearly everything known. The planet's iron core radiates its energy outward like a furnace that never goes out. Over time, this heat forms mantle plumes, narrow columns of magma rising slowly toward the surface. One of those plumes is now awakening beneath what will one day become Siberia. As it rises, it melts the crust above it, releasing gases trapped for eons: carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur dioxide. The breath of the planet exhaled all at once. This outpouring of fire will one day create a volcanic region so vast that geologists now call it the Siberian Traps. When it erupts, it will not last for days or weeks, but for hundreds of thousands of years. The sky will turn red, oceans will darken, and almost all life on Earth will perish. But that's still ahead. For now, what you feel is a faint beginning, a slow crack, invisible but inevitable. The crust beneath Pangaea begins to stretch. It is a process called rifting, when the rigid shell of the planet pulls apart under its own tension. It doesn't happen in an instant. At first, the rocks bend, then they fracture. Then magma seeps upward, filling the gaps like golden glue. New crust forms from the molten material, pushing the land on either side apart. If you could watch this from space, sped up 1,000,000-fold, you would see faint red lines appear across Pangaea, the first scars of separation. They snake through what will one day become Africa, South America, and North America, dividing them along invisible seams. Each line marks a rift zone, a fault in the fabric of the world. The earth is teaching itself to move. To the creatures that live upon it, the early reptiles, the amphibians, the forests of conifers and ferns, nothing seems different. The ground doesn't quake. The horizon doesn't shift. Life goes on, unaware that it stands on a planet slowly breaking apart. But if you could see the whole planet from orbit, if you could step outside time, you'd witness a breathtaking dance. Over tens of millions of years, the single landmass of Pangaea begins to swell and bulge. Deep cracks widen. The crust thins in some regions and thickens in others. The land bends like metal under stress. The earth, in its quiet way, is preparing for something colossal. Every few million years, a new rift opens, sometimes closing again, sometimes pushing farther until the crust finally splits. From these fractures, new oceans will one day emerge. The Atlantic Ocean, the one that now carries ships, whales, and the slow drift of continents, does not yet exist. But its birthplace is already stirring beneath your feet. You can almost hear it, a sound too low for ears, but not for imagination. The deep, slow rhythm of tectonic motion, plates grinding, stretching, rearranging themselves in an endless molten waltz. Even now, scientists can trace these ancient fractures in the rock, the scars of Pangaea's breakup. We find evidence in magnetic stripes frozen in ocean crust, in matching fossils separated by half the globe, in the mirrored shape of continents that once fit together like puzzle pieces. It is one of geology's greatest realizations. The continents move, always have, always will. The theory of plate tectonics, once dismissed as fantasy, now forms the foundation of how we understand our planet. It tells us that the crust is not static, but restless, that mountains rise and fall, that seas open and close, that the world itself is a breathing, shifting organism. In the deep time you're standing in now, the process has only just begun. But once started, it cannot be stopped. The earth is rewiring itself, slowly, beautifully, valiantly. Its story is not one of destruction, but of change. From unity to division, from stillness to movement, from one world to many. If you could press your hand to the ground now, you might feel the faint warmth of magma rising through the cracks, a pulse that echoes your own heartbeat. But in some quiet way, it is the same. The Earth's movements mirror our own restlessness. We too are always in motion, reshaping, dividing, reuniting. The first tremors are not chaos, they are the beginning of a new rhythm. You close your eyes and feel the faint hum beneath the crust, the sound of a planet learning how to dance. Chapter 3: Fire Beneath the Crust. You stand at the edge of the world on the brink of transformation. The air is thicker now. The ground beneath you hums faintly, not with life, but with pressure. The slow, deep tension of a planet about to release what it has held for too long. The silence that once defined Pangaea is breaking. You can smell it before you see it. Sulfur and ash, like burnt stone and thunder. Beneath the surface, magma has found its way upward through the new fractures in the crust. Each crack becomes a pathway, each weakness an invitation. The heat, the gases, the molten rock, all of it has been gathering for millions of years in chambers beneath the land. Now, one by one, they begin to erupt. At first, it's quiet, slow fountains of basalt rising from the earth, hardening into black rock as they cool. Then the eruptions multiply. Thousands of vents open across thousands of kilometers, spilling fire and smoke into the sky. What you are witnessing is not just a volcanic eruption, it's a planetary exhale. This is the Siberian Traps, one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history. So vast, it covers more than 7 million square kilometers, nearly the size of modern Australia. It erupts not for days or centuries, but for hundreds of thousands of years, layer upon layer of basalt, burying forests, rivers, and valleys. Each eruption releases billions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. The climate begins to change. At first, slowly, a few degrees warmer. A shift in ocean currents, a new rhythm in the wind. But the planet is a delicate system. A few degrees can mean the difference between life and extinction. As the volcanic gases spread through the air, the oceans begin to suffocate. Carbon dioxide dissolves into seawater, forming carbonic acid. The pH drops. Coral reefs dissolve. Shells made of calcium carbonate begin to melt away. Meanwhile, the atmosphere thickens with sulfur dioxide, reflecting sunlight back into space, cooling the surface temporarily before the greenhouse gases trap the heat again. It's a chaotic dance between fire and frost, one that life cannot keep up with. In this age of upheaval, over 90% of all marine species and 70% of land species will vanish. It will be known to the future as the Great Dying, the most severe mass extinction event in the history of Earth. But here, in the moment itself, there are no names, only fire, and the slow, deep rhythm of a planet remaking itself. If you could look down from space, you'd see Pangaea flicker with ribbons of red. Glowing rivers of lava stretching across continents, blackening forests, filling valleys. From above, it looks almost alive, like veins carrying molten blood through the body of the world. Each eruption adds new crust, pushing the landmasses slightly apart. This is how continents begin to move. Not suddenly, but through billions of quiet pushes and pulls. Through invisible patience. The process is called continental drift. Though what's truly happening beneath is the movement of tectonic plates. The crust, brittle and thin, floats on a layer of molten rock called a stenosphere, where convection currents rise and fall like the breath of the planet. Hot material rises beneath mid-ocean ridges, cools and sinks again. A global conveyor belt of stone and fire. And though you cannot see it yet, this system will shape everything. The future placement of mountains, the depth of oceans, even the patterns of evolution. Because when the land divides, so does life. Species once connected are now cut off by new seas. Populations that once shared the same forest find themselves on opposite shores, isolated by salt and distance. And slowly, over millions of years, they evolve apart, adapting to different climates, different foods, different worlds. The story of life becomes a story of divergence. Every beat of tectonic movement is a note in that song. The volcanic skies eventually clear, the eruptions slow, but the damage and the change is done. The atmosphere has shifted, the carbon cycle has been rewritten, and beneath the black basalt plains, the crust continues to stretch, tugged by the forces it can no longer resist. New ocean basins begin to form, shallow at first, then deeper, swallowing rivers, carving coasts. The great landmass of Pangaea is no longer whole. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the sound of the planet's first ocean being born. The gentle hiss of magma meeting seawater, the crackle of stone as it cools into new crust. The world is learning a new word: separation. From this point forward, nothing on earth will ever truly be still again. Every continent that will ever exist, every mountain, every coastline will trace its ancestry to this fire, to this breath, to this moment when the planet's inner heat finally reached the surface and said, "Enough." The continents are beginning to move. The dance has begun. You look up at the blood red sky, and for the first time, you understand. Even destruction can be a form of creation. Chapter 4: The Day the Continents Danced Apart. It happens so slowly, you wouldn't notice it if you lived an entire lifetime here. Yet, in the grand scale of deep time, it is the sound of thunder, the long rolling roar of a planet in motion. You are standing at the edge of Pangaea's wound. A deep rift stretches before you, cutting through the heart of the supercontinent. The ground falls away into a wide valley where molten rock glows beneath a thin crust. Steam rises through cracks, carrying with it the breath of the planet. Hot, mineral, alive. The world is splitting. This is what geologists will one day call a rift valley, the birthplace of oceans. Here, the crust is stretched so thin that magma seeps upward to form new rock. Over millions of years, that rock will push outward, forcing the landmasses apart. The same process still happens today, beneath the Red Sea, along the East African Rift, and deep under the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Each is a scar left by the same ancient process that began here when Pangaea took its first steps toward becoming the world you know. The split is vast but quiet. No explosion, no roar. Just the slow rhythmic breath of tectonic motion. Each century, the gap widens by only a few centimeters, less than the width of a human hand. But in a million years, those centimeters become kilometers. In 100 million, they become oceans. You watch as magma cools to form dark basalt, spreading in both directions like stitching of a wound that can never close. This is sea floor spreading, where new crust is born at the ridges and pushed outward as it cools. It's strange to think that this fire, this quiet birth of stone, will one day give rise to the Atlantic Ocean. The ocean that will cradle Europe and Africa on one side and the Americas on the other. The ocean that will shape weather, climate, migration, even human destiny. But right now, it's just a narrow, steaming gulf. Shallow, newborn, fragile. Rain falls into it for the first time. Rivers find new paths. The air smells faintly of salt and sulfur. You can see the continents begin to drift, though not with your eyes, only with your imagination. Each piece of land moves with a strange, graceful inevitability. The northern part, Laurasia, begins to drift northward. The southern part, Gondwana, slides away toward the south. Between them, the rift expands, and the earth exhales another new ocean. From space, the change is breathtaking. The single green-brown expanse of Pangaea begins to fracture, its pieces curling away like the petals of a flower opening in slow motion. Where there was once one continent, there are now many. Africa, North America, South America, Eurasia, Australia, Antarctica. Though they're still unrecognizable, their outlines blurred and half-formed. The continents move at roughly 2 to 5 centimeters per year, about as fast as your fingernails grow. It doesn't sound like much, but over 200 million years, it is enough to rearrange the entire face of the earth. Mountains crumble, new ones rise, coastlines form, dissolve, and reform again. It is not chaos, it is choreography. The Earth's outer shell, the lithosphere, floats atop a sea of partially molten rock called the asthenosphere. Where heat rises, plates move apart. Where plates collide, mountains lift toward the sky. Where one slides beneath another, deep trenches and volcanoes bloom. You can see all three at once here, the full spectrum of tectonic grace. To the west, new crust is being born. To the east, the land buckles into a mountain chain. The ancient ancestors of the Appalachians. To the south, subduction zones swallow slabs of crust back into the mantle, recycling the planet's skin. The continents are not just moving, they are breathing. Their edges are the lungs of the earth, exhaling and inhaling land in cycles older than life itself. As the oceans widen, climates shift. Moisture that once spread evenly across the supercontinent now condenses over the coasts, leaving the interiors dry and barren. Deserts grow where forests once stood. Winds carve red dunes across half a world. Life must adapt. New species evolve to survive in isolation. Early dinosaurs began to roam the valleys. Primitive mammals hide in burrows, waiting for the age of giants to pass. The world is larger now, not just in geography, but in possibility. Isolation breeds diversity. Distance creates invention. Without this separation, there would be no continents as we know them, no migration, no variety of species, no complex ecosystems shaped by climate and distance. Even the history of humanity, migration out of Africa, formation of cultures and civilizations, all of it depends on this ancient drift. And yet, in this moment, it feels deeply personal. You stand at the edge of the rift, watching the land stretch away, and you can't help but feel something familiar, the ache of separation, the beauty in distance, the quiet truth that sometimes things must fall apart to create something new. The continents are not enemies, they are dance partners, slowly, endlessly circling each other across time. Their movements shape the tides, the winds, the very patterns of life. Every coastline on Earth is a frozen moment in that dance, a memory of when land said goodbye to itself. You close your eyes and listen. The hiss of magma, the hum of moving stone, the heartbeat of a world still learning how to become many. The earth is no longer one body, but it is still one rhythm. You breathe in the salt and ash of a newborn ocean, and the sound you hear is not destruction, but the quiet music of creation. Chapter 5: The Age of Isolation. The world is no longer one. The great subcontinent Pangaea has divided into drifting islands of stone, vast, fast-moving continents gliding over molten seas. The air still shimmers with warmth. The oceans swirl with new currents, and the silence that once unified the world has been replaced by wind, rain, and the cities of life adapting to its new shape. You stand on a cliff overlooking one of these new coasts. Below you, waves crash against fresh basalt, rock so young it still smells faintly of fire. Far out to sea, the horizon curves gently away, hinting at the size of what's forming, the first true ocean basins. The Earth has entered a new era. The Triassic period has begun, and with it, the story of isolation, the strange and beautiful force that will drive evolution forward like never before. When continents drift apart, they take their ecosystems with them. Each landmass becomes a kind of natural laboratory where species evolve in isolation, separated by oceans, climates, and the slow march of geological time. From a single shared ancestry, life begins to diverge, branch, and bloom into astonishing forms. Here, in the warmth of Pangaea's southern fragments, the remnants of Gondwana reptiles rise to dominance. You see early dinosaurs walking the shores, their footsteps leaving perfect impressions in the mud. Nearby, the ancestors of crocodiles glide through shallow rivers. Above, pterosaurs, the first creatures to truly take the sky, spread leathery wings against the new winds. In the northern lands of Laurasia, forests thicken again after the chaos of fire and extinction. Cycads and ginkgos return, painting the continents in deep green. Tiny mammals scurry through underbrush, timid, nocturnal, but destined for greatness. And beneath the sea, life has found its rhythm once more. Coral reefs rebuild in the shallow waters along the new coastlines. The continents drift apart further, and as they do, climates transform. Tropical belts stretch across the equator. The poles grow cooler, cloaked in mist and early snow. Weather itself becomes more complex, driven by the uneven heating of a planet now divided by oceans and mountains. Each movement sends ripples through the biosphere. When mountains rise, rainfall changes. When seas open, migration paths close. When continents drift apart, evolution finds new routes to follow. Isolation is not absence, it's transformation. Over tens of millions of years, species adapt so completely to their new homes that they become unrecognizable from their ancestors. You could trace their lineage in fossils, but standing here, you'd only see the results: the strange, the beautiful, the unexpected. In one land, a predator evolves teeth shaped for crushing shells. In another, claws built for climbing trees. Elsewhere, feathers appear, at first for warmth, then for flight. This is how divergent evolution works. Separation creates difference. Difference creates diversity. And diversity makes the world resilient, complex, and wondrous. By the Jurassic period, the planet hums with vitality again. Forests cover much of the land, oceans glitter with life, and the dinosaurs, once small, cautious, almost fragile, have grown vast and confident, roaming every continent under skies rich in oxygen. They rule not because of chaos, but because the earth itself gave them the space to rise. It's easy to think of separation as loss, but sometimes it's the only way for something new to emerge. For the first time, the planet feels alive, not in spite of its fractures, but because of them. You watch the continents drift across the horizon and realize creation is not always about coming together. Sometimes it's about learning to let go. Chapter 6. We, the Children of a Broken World. You open your eyes. The age of drifting continents has carried you here, to the present, to the brief flicker of time we call now. The world feels still again, but only because your life is too short to see its movement. Beneath your feet, the same tectonic hum continues. The slow pull of Africa toward Europe, the stretching of the Atlantic, the closing of the Pacific. The continents are still dancing, still shifting to music we can't hear but can almost feel. You stand on a fragment of a once whole world. Every mountain, every coastline, every grain of sand beneath your shoes has traveled. The earth has been rearranging itself for 4.5 billion years, and you, standing here, are part of that story. Think about it for a moment. The ground you live on was once at the bottom of an ocean. The rock beneath your city might have formed near the equator or even beneath another sky entirely. The air you breathe carries molecules once exhaled by ancient forests that grew on Pangaea's red deserts. You're not living on the earth, you are living within its memory. Every mountain is an autobiography of motion. Every fossil, a letter written by time. And every human footprint, another line in the long poem of change. The dance of the continents isn't over. In another 250 million years, the plates will shift again. The seas will rearrange. New mountains will rise where plains now sleep. New deserts will swallow old oceans. And one day, far beyond the horizon of our time, the continents may meet again. Not in violence, but in reunion. Another supercontinent, another beginning. Perhaps the world will be called Amnesia or Pangaea Ultima, a final convergence before the sun grows too large and the oceans boil away. Perhaps by then, life will have changed beyond recognition. Perhaps it will still whisper in the dark, telling the same story in a new voice. Because this is what Earth does. It creates, it destroys, it transforms. And every time it breaks itself apart, it builds something new in the space between. We too are shaped by those fractures. The lands we call home, the species we share the planet with, the very balance of the air and sea, all of it born from separation. Our continents danced apart so we could exist, so that rivers could carve new paths, so that life could learn resilience through distance, so that one day, somewhere, a creature could look up at the sky and ask, why? You are that creature, a fragment of a world that was once one, now aware of its own story. It's humbling, isn't it, to realize that everything solid beneath you, everything you think of as permanent, is quietly moving, breathing, becoming. The continents drift, the stars burn, even the atoms in your body, born in ancient stars, molded in the heart of a restless planet, are still on their journey. And yet, within that motion, there's peace, a kind of grace, because movement means life. Change means continuation. The day the continents danced apart wasn't a day of destruction, it was a day of birth. The world became many, so it could become alive. And you, standing here in this fleeting present, are a moment within that same dance. The continents are still dancing, the earth is still singing, and you are a part of the rhythm. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the world beneath you breathes in time with your heart. The continents drift, the stars turn, and in the stillness between movements, the earth whispers, we are still one.